Welcome back. You're going to need notes 11 again, the one-step equations notes with addition and subtraction, and you're going to go to the back page or the third page where you see example 4. And today what we're going to talk about is word problems. The method that I like to talk about is called the 3 boxes method because we're going to split our paper into 3 boxes to write down different information in order to help us form our equations. So here we go. Write and solve an equation to find the perimeter. A square has a side length of 4 centimeters. What is the perimeter of the square? Now, I know a lot of you can just add up 4 times and know the answer, but I want to practice the method that you're going to be using. So we're going to split our paper into 4 areas. The middle area can be the smallest. So box 1 is for information we know. Box 2 is for information we need to find. And box 3 is for our work and our equation. Okay, so what do we know? We know that the side length of a square is 4 centimeters. So we're going to write that down. Side length of square equals 4 cm. What is it asking us to find? Well, it's asking us to find the perimeter. And the piece of information that I don't know is going to be my variable. So I'm going to call that P. Now I'm going to come back to my no box and I'm going to define P. Defining P is telling your reader what P represents, and P represents the perimeter of my square. And so now it's time to set up our equation. So I know that perimeter is the sum of all 4 sides. And I know that on a square, all 4 sides have the same measure. So in this case, we just have to add 4 times. Alternatively, you could do 4 times 4. So then our perimeter is 16 centimeters. And we're done. Let's take a look at another question, a little bit more involved. Write and solve an equation to find the unknown side length. The perimeter of the figure below is 23 4/10 inches. What is the length of the third side? All right, so here we go. Here's our no box, what we know, the information we need to find, and then some space for our work and equation. So let's take a look. What do we know? Well, we know we have a triangle. What else do we know about triangles? Yeah, there are 3 sides, right? Do we know anything about these sides? Well, sure. We know that one side, or the first side, is 4 3/10 inches. The second side is 9 9/10 inches. Do we know what the third side is? We don't, which is what the question is asking, right? The question says, what is the length of the third side? So we'll put that in our find box. Length of third side. Now, since we don't know what that is, what do you want to call it? Sometimes S is a good choice, but sometimes S looks like a 5, and we know there's multiple sides. So I might just pick something like X. And I'll define my variable over here. X equals what? The length of the third side. So my third side is X. Okay. Is there anything else that we know? Well, sure. We know that the perimeter is 23 4/10 inches. Our perimeters are total, so we know that has to go on one side of our equation like we did with the square above. So that's our perimeter, and that's going to equal the sum of our 3 sides. So our first side plus our second side plus our third side. Don't forget that third side, which is X. We'll draw our line down our equal sign to keep ourselves organized. So we have 2, 23 and 4/10. Now, before we start using inverse operations here, we're going to want to combine our like terms. So we're going to add 4 and 3/10 and 9 and 9/10. And you can do that little bit of work over here on the side. 9 and 9/10 plus 4 and 3/10. We have 2, carry the 1. 14 and 2/10. So we have 14 and 2/10 plus x. Now we'll use our inverse operations. So we're going to subtract 14 and 2/10 from both sides. Make sure to line up your decimals. 4 minus 2 is 2. Decimal comes straight down. I'm going to borrow from the 2. 13 minus 4 is 9. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 9 and 2/10 equals x, because our inverses cancel out here. And we're going to write our final answer in a sentence. The length of third side is 9 and 2/10 inches. It's a good habit to write your answer in a sentence, right? And if we double check, we solved for x over here. And was the question asking us to find x? It was. Your check would be to simply add all 3 sides up. So we now know that that third side is 9 and 2/10. So if we add 4 and 3/10, 9 and 9/10, and 9 and 2/10, it should equal the original perimeter of 23 and 4/10. Now go grab your journal, your record and practice journal, that's red, and turn to page 56. We're going to do number 9 together here. Or you could write this on the back side of your notes. It's up to you. Again, journal page 56, number 9. A clothing company makes a profit of $2.3 million. This is $4.1 million more than last year. What was the profit last year? Okay, time for 3 boxes. It's a word problem. So here are our boxes. What's the first box for? Information we know. What's the middle box for? Information we're going to find. What's the third box for? Our work or our equation. Our work and our equation. All right. What do we know? Well, we know the profit was 2.3 million. So profit equals 2.3 million. Okay. And we know this is 4.1 million more than last year. So we know that this profit is 4.1 million more than last year. Okay, that's all we seem to know. The question, what was the profit last year? So that goes in our find box. Profit last year. Since I don't know what that is, we need to pick a variable. Let's call that maybe P. Let's come define our variable. What does P represent? The profit last year. Good. Now we're ready to write our equation. So this one gets a little bit tricky, but we have to pay attention to the words. So it says the company makes the profit of 2.3 million, and then it says this is. What does is mean in math? Exactly, it says equals. So is means equals. And when it's saying this is, what was it referring to? It was referring to this because it comes afterward. So we have 2.3. This is 4.1 million. So 4.1 million more than, right? We wrote more than. What operation is that? Addition. Last year. Well, what are we using to represent last year's profit? Exactly, P. And so now we have our equation and we're ready to solve. Line down our equal sign, cover up the variable term, use inverse operations. So we're going to subtract 4 1/10 from both sides. Is this same sign or different sign? Different sign. So we're going to need to subtract and keep the sign of the higher number. So 4 1/10 minus 2 3/10. We're going to borrow from the 4. Now, keep the sign of the higher number. So we end up at negative 1 8/10. What does this mean? Exactly. The company didn't make a profit. They lost money. So we'll write that, though, in our sentence. The profit last year was negative $1.8 million, which means the company lost money. Sad face. All right. Time for you to try some on your own. See you next time.